Hey.
Smokey and the Bandit.
We're here to review the latest kids movie. Well, you're the Baywatch expert, so go ahead.
I'm really mixed on this.
Uh-huh.
It's better than the trailer was. So I didn't hate it like I thought I would, but it's just really mixed. There's some parts that I thought were just awful.
Yeah.
There were other parts that I did laugh at, and I heard you laughing. So
Yeah.
I mean, on the one hand, it fits with what people have been saying. It's very tonally inconsistent. So there are times where they don't even seem like the same characters. But on the other hand, it's a little bit true to Baywatch, because Baywatch is very tonally inconsistent. So, you know.
So maybe it is a perfect adaptation.
I will say this, there were elements that were from the show in it,
Yeah.
and not just the names. Though all the characters except for Mitch, none of the personality or backstory or anything is from the show. It's just names. Stephanie's a little bit close, but she doesn't do that much in the overall scheme of things. So
Yeah.
there were things like, there's a part where they start just explaining plots from Baywatch, like diamonds in the surfboards and things like that, and so that was funny. The part with the cooler with the trap in the bottom, the sand grifters,
Yeah.
that's a plot from Baywatch. They have
Yeah.
like a plot where there's someone with a cooler that has a trap on the bottom, and so, I mean, I enjoyed those parts, and I enjoyed the parts where they talked about your lifeguards, this is not your jurisdiction, which was a lot of Baywatch.
Yeah.
Though I think maybe they leaned a little too heavily on that, because they said that same line or variations of it a lot, to the point where I was like, all right, I get it, but you need some more variation here. So, I mean, there was stuff that I laughed at. The tiny Mitch in the fish tank
Yes.
that kept changing inexplicably. That was really funny. Where he was watching with binoculars, and then he was in the normal shirt when
And
he
he was
wasn't a
sad
lifeguard anymore. Yeah,
In the sad montage. But what did you think of this compared to Son of the Beach?
Man, it was what little I've seen of Son of the Beach. It was
Yeah.
better than that. But all of the worst aspects of it were the stuff that focused on the sexy aspect of it or the gross aspect of it, because that was not Baywatch to me.
The hard R.
The hard R stuff. I don't think it needed it. There were occasionally parts where I felt like if I was reading this script and I just saw like Mitch Buchanan going like, oh, what the fuck this, fucking fuck, I'd be like, that's a funny script. But I wouldn't necessarily want to see it on screen.
Like that Quantum Leap book you were telling me about, where Al says, I'd give my left nut to help Sam, or something like that. Was that it?
Yeah, it was like, I'd give my left nut for Sam to come home. It's like, man, this is not... Or the one where Sam's just like, shit! Extended shit. I'm like, I don't know if this should have been... I guess it was funny in the book. I laughed at David Hasselhoff's cameo a lot. The fact that they were both called Mitch.
What do you say, Mitch? Thanks, Mitch. I guess they are both in continuity with each other.
Well, yeah, that was funny to me. Like, and Pamela Anderson, they called her Casey Jean, which is what CJ stands for, her character on there. But like, the cameos were what I expected, which would be a one scene wink kind of thing. But they still did something kind of funny with it, so it was fine. The Pamela Anderson one wasn't as funny. It was just a slow motion joke.
Yeah, she had no dialogue, by the way.
She just comes in, slow motion.
Okay.
Yeah,
What
I
is
was
that
waiting for
about?
something to happen, and it was that was the laziest one too, because the Mitch one actually like drove the plot a little.
Yeah, it did, and he had
hers was
lines.
Yeah, and hers was just the lazy walk on, like, by the way, everything's wrapped up, but here's the lieutenant from over here, and she's gonna come take care of things. The end, like, if you had no prior knowledge to Baywatch, which I don't know who would, but if, like, let's say you were like a teenager coming in to watch this and you didn't know anything about the original show, you'd be like, what was that scene? Why did that happen?
Yeah, but Baywatch was a show that I didn't watch really. Like, I mean, here and there, if it was on or something, I might, because I caught a few episodes when it was first on, but only from like channel surfing, and maybe I was watching a TV that had like 5 or 6 channels on it. Like maybe I'd be at somebody else's house or something, like maybe my aunt's house. But I didn't watch a lot of Baywatch as like a preteen and whatnot, because given how the show was marketed and everything, I had Cinemax growing up. I could watch,
You could
the
watch
Bikini
Angel
Cur-
Fist,
Angel
the
Fist.
sexiest of the Cinemax.
Yes. The scariest sex. I could watch the Bikini Car Wash Company if I wanted to.
Yeah.
Or, it's Angel Fist. Look, once upon a time, you just had to schedule your masturbation as a preteen. And if you had Cinemax, it was typically Cinemax After Dark on Fridays and weekends. Sometimes a movie like Angel Fist would be on, which, yes, has a sex scene in it, but a scary one. Because Kat Sassoon was kind of scary. So if that comes on and you're sitting there like, well, I guess we're doing this. What are my other options? I'm as scared as the guy in the scene. That's the thing.
Well, this was my
did.
childhood as well. Angel Fist. I guess we're doing this.
You're right, I probably said the same thing before the movie even started. Angel Fist, guess we're watching this. I'm honestly pretty lenient towards this movie, Baywatch. Not just for this reason, but I saw Chips.
It wasn't as bad as Chips sounded from what I heard from you.
It's not. This movie's worst parts are better than Chip's best parts. Like, this movie, whether you like this movie or not, compare this movie and Chips, which is easy to do, both based on cheesy shows, both hard R comedies, both raunchy and action comedies too. This movie is at least, it's ambitious. They're trying here. Like, Chips was just cheap trash. Like, that's what it was. It was just bro-y bullshit. This movie, whether you like it or not, like, there's charm there. Like, they are trying to make a really good, funny action comedy. And I did laugh a number of times in this movie. And Dwayne Johnson and Zac Efron are really funny here. Like, this movie has the benefit of casting 2 guys as their leads who have a lot of charisma and a lot of really damn great timing between the two of them. And they work well together. A problem I have with the movie is that there's probably like a really, really damn funny and solid 80-minute comedy in this.
It was way too damn long.
That is stretched to 2 hours, like a lot of comedies do now, that's packed with a lot of shit that could easily be cut out of this movie.
Yeah.
Because something really funny would have, like...
The scene where the guy's dick is caught in the slats on the chair, that scene could have been gone and improved it so much because
honestly,
it was not funny.
Most of his scenes could have been cut from this movie. You could have chopped Robbie out of this movie, pretty much 95% of his bullshit, and it would have brought this movie down to about 90 minutes. The movie wouldn't have been great by any means, but there's a lot of funny stuff with Dwayne Johnson and Zac Efron and their one-liners and the timing that they have. And I like the stuff about, like, how Zac Efron is basically Ryan Lochte. Like, he's this Olympic gold medalist who's an embarrassment.
He was a blend of several different characters, actually, if I'm thinking about it. It might be just because Baywatch has covered everything, so I don't know if I'm giving them more credit, but it does seem like they did take some things. He's named Matt Brody, which was David Charvet's character, who was a French guy, kind of wealthy. He rode a motorcycle. And that's about the only thing from Matt Brody that was taken from him. Olympic medalist, that was Cody, that's a character in season 6. The fact that he was in foster homes, that's Eddie Kramer. So it seems like they kind of mixed a lot of those generic younger guy characters that would come in to be sort of the main focus, because to focus toward the younger audience, because David Hasselhoff was, for the older crowd, so we would have the younger love interest ones. The women, less so, though they had sort of the essence of them, like, there was Summer in there, and there was Stephanie, and there was CJ. They had Captain Thorpe, but he was just like a corrupt guy in the end.
That was a character from the show?
It was. That was Monty Markham's character.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was Captain Thorpe. But it was, again, nothing except that he was the captain. And Ellerby sort of had the essence of the character there. The fact that he kind of had this, like, begrudging relationship with them.
Oh, okay.
So that was Gregory Allen Williams' character.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff with, like,
Ronnie's new.
Yeah, and he should have been cut. He should have been cut so hard. Like, between the and I did like a lot of the I laughed at a lot of the jokes involving, like, Zac Efron pointing out that cops should really be handling this. And you're right, and that they do.
He pointed out the specific instances too, where he's just like, call animal control, call this, like all the plots, like, no, this is what you should have done.
And I did like a lot of that, and like, a lot of jokes are kind of repeated in the movie, and again, lends itself towards about 40 minutes of this movie could have been cut. Like, seriously.
If it was cut down, it would have helped a lot.
It would have helped this movie so much. Like, between cutting out the dick stuff and all the stuff with Ronnie and jokes that they repeat. Like, there are jokes in this movie that really do land. Like, I did laugh out loud a number of times in the movie. I wouldn't say a hell of a lot, but a fair amount I did. It did get some good laughs out of me. But then the movie would stop dead because we got to get someone playing with a dick for 5 minutes, or stupid Robbie or Ronnie or whatever the fuck his name is gets his dick caught in a goddamn chair for 5 minutes.
That scene wasn't funny anyway, because I don't find repeated shots of dicks funny in general, but if they were going to do that, if they'd cut that at least in half, because it just kept going.
Yeah.
And the worst scene for me, and this has gotten some press because of how awful it is the scene where they're playing with the corpse's dick.
Yeah.
And again, it's just there to be like, haha, guys, don't want to be touching dicks. And all of the really crass humor about it. I'm just sick of that kind of comedy, honestly.
Sure.
Like, because it's just overused, and I don't find it funny if that's just the extent of the joke, to be crass, and that's it.
And that's why that's there, because 21 Jump Street was popular. That's the thing to do with these TV movie adaptations. That, as bad as that part was, it never got as bad as shit from Chips. A movie that would stop itself dead to have a back and forth conversation about rim jobs for 5 minutes, or oogling someone's yoga pants out of nowhere. Like, what a piece of shit movie that was. But this, I was actually probably more annoyed about the dick in the chair than I was the scene in the morgue, even though the scene in the morgue...
At least the scene in the morgue was plot related.
Yeah, and that's it. It was like... I was like, okay, you could have cut out the dick part, but the scene itself...
Yeah, the scene needed to be there for the plot.
Also, the drug plot was really... I imagine Baywatch had a lot more interesting plots in it than... Or maybe not every episode, but some... Like, okay, the plots...
The plots would be a lot more far-fetched than this. But something like a club, like a fancy club, having a drug runner or whatever. That was pretty typical kind of stuff. I don't remember specific drug plot like that, but...
Well, the plots that he's mentioning when he's talking about things that happen on the show
Yeah.
are more interesting plots than this drug running on the beach plot that's going on. And...
Well, it kind of feels like they're doing Baywatch, but they're trying to do more realistic Baywatch. I mean, because they point out the more ridiculous elements of it, but they do have some ridiculous things here as well. Like the fireworks thing and like blowing her up with the fireworks.
That was funny.
Like that.
When it got to the climax, because that involves, our main characters, and the main character, and Efron and Dwayne Johnson are both really good in this, so they were carrying scenes like that throughout the climax, but whenever it was the rest of the movie and it was cutting to whatever the villains were doing, it's like, this is just a generic, drug plot. I've seen this.
I wish that they were a little more ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because, if you juxtapose that, those ridiculous villains, and if they had done it like that, have a really ridiculous plot going on and keep Ellerby really straight and all the law enforcement really straight, and they're like, well, this stuff doesn't happen and lifeguards shouldn't be involved with this and whatever. And then they realize all this ridiculous stuff is happening. That would be a funny foil to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree. The villain... I liked the stance they were going with, that she was she was a woman and she would occasionally say lines about, if I was a man, then this is how you would interpret this or whatever. They were taking sort of I don't know, feminist stance with it.
Unfortunately, it was a weak villain.
Yeah.
She, and I've seen her before, but it was a really forgettable villain.
I barely remember her name anymore.
Yeah,
Victoria,
right?
maybe?
I think. Yeah, I don't know. That whole plot line, it wasn't doing it for me. It wasn't. It was... It's what you would expect in something like this, honestly. It's just kind of generic, just drug-running plot that's going on. And if this movie is trying to be more, not serious, but okay... with
more grounded?
Yeah, then... Man, the special effects are terrible in this movie. Holy shit. I could never figure... The green screening, the fire effects, the boat fire sequence and everything are so bad that I was sitting there going, are they bad or are they trying to be cheesy?
I don't think they were trying to be bad, but none of it stuck out with me as particularly awful effects-wise. It didn't really do anything for me because, the sort of epicness of it, I didn't feel anything epic about it. Alright. I did like the scene where Mitch and the bad guy are fighting in a kid's room with a bunch of baby stuff, and that kind of rang true to the Mitch character, that he was always really nice to kids and shutting the door and trying to stuff like that was funny to me because it wasn't just depending on being an asshole. And when the movie started, they were different characters. Because when Mitch and Stephanie are talking to Matt, and then they're just razzing him about stuff, they're not even like that. They're just oh, pretty boy wants to be a lifeguard on the beach. What happened to the last pretty boy? Oh, he died. And they're just being assholes before he's done anything to really warrant it. I can more so understand that in the sense they know who he is because he's a celebrity. Well, they didn't yet, though. Because he asked them if they knew, and they said they didn't.
Well, I think they were kind of giving him shit because he mentioned.
Mitch had to get that explained to him later who he was.
Didn't Mitch say I thought Mitch said later on that he.
He might have been talking about the footage he was shown because they have a scene where Captain Thorpe is telling him.
Even then, I'm okay, I can looking at it from their point of view on that, I'm like, okay, they probably get like a really kind of bro-y pretty boy like this coming up to them a lot. Like I can more so understand that, even though you're right, it is a bit more razzing early on in the movie than it gets to later. The part that I noticed with one person's acting pretty different in this scene than he does later on is when it shows for the news footage and everything of Matt Brody, and he's just really dumb, like Ryan Lodke, like it really does feel like a parody of that. Like it feels like he's gonna eat soap at any minute when it's showing him on the news, and he's really not like that in the rest of the movie.
Occasionally he'll say something dumb, but it's not enough. Like, I'll forget that his character's supposed to be dumb until he says something. It felt like Neighbors Light. Like, I was like, occasionally, like when he's with Ronnie and they're looking at stuff on the computer and he's like, oh, we found some dirt. Dirt, what are we gonna do with dirt? And that was another moment where I was like, oh, right, he's supposed to be this dumb, but except when he's not.
That part, I at least kind of got the context of that part, because I'm like, he wouldn't be tech savvy or anything like that.
But how would you not know the phrase, like, we found some dirt on this?
Probably because that part's he most likely ad-libbed that line.
Yeah.
But the
that's
other
why
stuff,
it had that Neighbors flavor, though.
Yeah.
Like, you could tell when there were, like, improv type things going on.
a little bit.
Not as much as something like Sisters.
No,
but...
or Snatched that Sarah and I went to go see, where you could feel every time that movie would just stop itself in its tracks to ad-lib. This movie, to me, more often than not, kind of blended itself in just fine in terms of part where they were riffing, but the tech part, like, maybe less the dirt part and more the where he's talking about like cookies and firewalls and stuff like that.
Yeah, that stuff.
I get that. Like, yeah. But yeah, like, and he would say stuff kind of clueless every now and then, but it was never at that point. It never got as dumb as earlier in the movie, where it seemed like he just didn't know the English language.
It was like a mix of Ryan Lochte and Vanilla Ice a bit.
I could see that, yeah.
Maybe a bit of Justin Bieber thrown in.
Yeah. Or they flat out reference High School Musical in the movie.
Yeah. I did like the bloopers at the end, and then they had David Hasselhoff in there. Like, I look like a tiny asshole compared to him.
Yeah. The David Hasselhoff cameo was way better than the Pamela Anderson one. The Pamela Anderson one felt like there was so much cut out of it, but they couldn't cut it all out because she's got to be in the movie somewhere. So here's just her walking on screen. Bye.
It felt like they filmed it as an obligation later.
Yeah.
Is what it felt like. Like, she had, like, 30 minutes available for them to shoot this, and they just tacked it on to the end of the scene. And the David Hasselhoff one, I wouldn't be surprised to find that they filmed it at a later date, too, because it just takes place, like, in a Sprint store with no other characters in a scene that, while it does move the plot forward, could be cut out and not change anything. So... I wouldn't be surprised if they weren't planning those, and then people were like, "Well, are you going to include some of the original people?" Okay. It wasn't Evil Dead cameo lazy, but
no. Or Eric Estrada in Chips, where he just looks over at like a girl's ass and just goes like with his tongue. Like, actually, you would kind of expect that in this movie, considering it's produced by Eli Roth. That was actually another...
Was it?
Yeah.
Baywatch was produced by Eli Roth?
The opening credit said co-produced by Eli Roth, because I could hear you go. I could hear you go, oh.
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah.
Though, David Hasselhoff and Pamela Anderson shouldn't have been in the opening credits there.
That was probably a contract thing.
Yeah, it was like, I don't expect them to be in this much, and they weren't.
No, their name on the credit was in it more than at least Pamela Anderson. But like, also like as the movie was going, like whenever it was getting kind of bad, still in my mind I was like, at least it's not Chips, but also because it said co-produced by Eli Roth at the beginning, I was like, at least it's not written and directed by him. Like, so there was a lot of factions going into this where I was like, hey, this could be worse. But that was really during the bad parts.
The trailer sort of just emphasized a lot of the worst parts of it for me. There were some funny parts, like the lifeguard pursuit bit and stuff like that, but a lot of it was just focused on the elements I disliked the most.
You saw some more of the raunchier trailers than I did. I mainly saw the Green Band trailers, and I enjoyed those. But granted, you know way more about this show than I do.
Well, I mean, okay, it just seems like I'm just complaining like this was not a faithful Baywatch
Oh, I mean, I get
movie.
it. Like,
and I mean, I would be fine with this not being like the show if it were better.
Yeah.
Because I liked it better than I thought I would. So I wouldn't say that I hated it.
Yeah.
But it's not one that I really want to rewatch. It's not one that I thought I laughed at enough to justify saying it was a good movie.
If there's an edit of this movie that comes out that chops it down to about 80 or 90 minutes,
Yeah.
I would watch that because it's probably a much better movie.
Yeah, if it was shorter, it would definitely improve it.
Mm-hmm. It would improve it severely. As it is, I mean, in terms of because I did laugh a fair amount of times in this movie, so I can't be like, oh, don't watch this. But I'm trying to think like, if you catch it if you catch it as a matinee screening, or even like, because here at the movie theater they'll do like cheap Tuesdays or something where it's pretty inexpensive to go to a movie. You could that could maybe be justifiable, but honestly, there is some bullshit in this movie. So it's like, it'd be a perfectly good movie just to rent. Like, it would. Just renting this movie and watching it at home, you'd get some enjoyment out of it. In terms of, in fact, a lot of the special effects might look better on a smaller screen. But I did laugh a fair amount of times in this movie, so I don't know, if you went to like a $3, $4, $5 screening of this, you might get something out of it.
You know why it's such a difficult movie to review? It's because it's several different movies.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it is true that it's very tonally inconsistent, and there are a lot of things that seem to just jump from different movies. So you might find one of these movies contained in here funny, but some of the other ones bad. So it's really difficult to say. I feel like if people enjoyed the trailers, they'd probably like it. Like, if you're a person this is marketed to, like if you just want to see really attractive people, then I don't know, like it probably is fine for that, but if you're not like instantly sold on it, then yeah, like a rental would probably be fine.
Yeah, if you're really, really sold on the trailers, which a lot of people are, like, I mean, I was. I enjoyed the trailers for this movie. Then what you laughed at in the trailer, you'll still laugh at in the movie, and there'll be some other stuff in there, too, that'll get some laughs out of you, but it's definitely not as smart or as good, or it's not as good as it could have been. I don't think it's a bad movie, but this could have been one of the funnier movies of the summer, and it's not. And the summer hasn't even started yet. I'm just gonna come out and say this is not gonna be one of the best comedies of the summer.
They could have been smarter about it. We were talking about this before. Like, if you're gonna do an adaptation, just because it's dumb source material, because I will say this, it was smarter than the actual Baywatch show. Because Baywatch is really stupid.
Yeah.
But if you adapt a dumb source material, you can't be lazy about it. You gotta be smarter than the material. Otherwise, you're just saying, like, it's dumb, so we don't care.
That's what Chips was. and this parts of it are like that.
Parts of it are really lazy.
Other parts from what I've seen of the show, there are parts of this movie that do feel like, okay, it's like Baywatch-ish, but in like more of a straight-up comedy universe, bit way more than Chips, which was just which was just a fucking rotten turd that happened to be called Chips.
There were flavors of Baywatch here.
Uh-huh.
There were some things that seemed just tacked on as like a gimme thing rather than actually trying with it. Like they have the shot at the very end where they're all running in slow-mo and Zac Efron falls over. And I'm like, I feel like if this was inserted into a part of the movie where something was happening instead of just at the end just cuz, maybe it would be funnier. But it just happens. And you're like, all right, are they just getting out the jokes they hadn't got to yet? Or like the fact that Pamela Anderson is just moving in slow motion. I'm like, I feel like maybe I should be laughing at this, but they just tacked it on. And it feels like they just made the same joke people were making when Baywatch was on, without actually doing anything different with it.
And plus, it was a joke that they already did earlier in the movie, too.
Yeah.
Like, it was another joke
with the actual CJ character in this movie.
Uh-huh. And that was just weird, because, again, she didn't have any lines. She just...
Do you think they just, like, screened her in and she filmed it a different day from them?
I don't know. like
and she was just there for, like, 30 minutes, and they're like, we're gonna put her in the shot. Don't worry about it.
What would have made that scene be a little funny is if she wasn't playing CJ, if she was playing her character from VIP. Like,
what if she came in and she was really ugly? Like, she had, like, a hunchback and, like, a mole. And
oh, God.
drooling.
Yeah.
And they're like, whoa, she's so hot. Slow-mo.
That would have been fun. That would have been funny. That would have been a joke.
If she played a character in it, even if she didn't, like, they're like, oh, yeah, that's that lady over there. Like, we don't like talking about her. She thinks she's a lifeguard, and, like, hunchback over there.
So hot.
That would be a hilarious cameo.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then it turns out she's barbed wire. Really? Okay.
All right. She's the character from Stacked.
Fuck.
All right.
Or Lost Souls, or whatever that movie was
Naked
called.
Souls.
Naked Souls, that's
Naked
it.
Souls. You think I don't know Naked Souls? Well, you know why I saw it? Dean Stockwell.
He is in that?
He's in
All I remember about that movie is Pamela Anderson getting rimmed in an alley. Like, that happens in a movie.
She's in it with Brian Krause from Charmed. It's like a rogues gallery of bad ideas.
That was another movie I caught on Cinemax back in the day.
Well, guess we're doing this.
Oh no, that one was more like, I don't know. That one was more like, well, it's Daddy's cheat day, and this is a buffet.
I want to say Pamela Anderson wasn't in that much, though, was she? It was mostly Brian Krause. To be fair, I did not watch the whole thing.
And to be fair, I think I might have just watched the sex scenes. So, the version I saw, she was in the whole thing.
All right, was it better or worse than Baywatch, the movie?
Naked Souls?
Yeah.
Baywatch is better. The question is, what's better, Naked Souls or Poison Ivy 2?
Poison Ivy 2. Poison Ivy 3 might have been better than Naked Souls.
Yeah. It was.
I don't know. I think my final recommendation for Baywatch, the movie, would be just rent it or watch the reunion movie.
Oh, right. I forgot about
that. The
that.
reunion movie was funnier than this.
Yeah.
But I guess it depends on your so bad it's good enjoyment. Because, I mean, Baywatch has never reached the heights of this is genuinely good television. You just laugh at it. And I wouldn't call this movie so bad it's good.
No.
The funny parts are genuinely funny. Like, they're trying to be funny. It's just several different movies.
It's a bit of a mess, but there are parts that work. So your best bet is probably just to rent the movie, honestly. But the parts that work, you probably will get some genuine laughs out of it. It might be your best bet this weekend if your only other choice is Pirates 5, and I'm just guessing. I haven't seen that yet, but yeah, so that's my final thought on it. It's fine. It could have been really, really, really funny, and it's alright. So yeah, I'll be back. I'm out of town for a few days, but when I get back on Saturday, I'm gonna try to fit Pirates in there somewhere. So, see that at some point. But anyway, see ya.